Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome everyone in today's lesson. This is for secondary grade for English subject. The first semester, the lesson is Unit 2. Listen and discuss from the book Mega Goal 5. You can see it in your book pages 14 and 15. It is prepared by Turki al and presented by me, Mazana Harbi. So welcome everyone. Our lesson objectives for the day, and in this lesson we inshallah will be able to recognize the speech of listening, and also we will know the names of some people who went from having nothing until to being wealthy. And number 3, you will be able to answer the exercise as well. And the last one, we will be enriched by new vocabulary. So, to begin with, the first thing we will do is to answer this question. What do you think the qualities that a person needs to excel in his life and be successful? So, what are the things that any of us need to be successful in his life and to excel in his life? Okay? So, a lot of people might say that people need maybe money to be successful. People need to have degrees to be successful, and people said also one other quality is to have to be very smart. Okay, so different qualities changes in different people. So a lot of people will give different qualities in their perspective of what makes a person successful or what make a person excel in his life. So in this lesson, we're going to listen about different types of people, okay, and or let me say different success stories from different people. And then we'll maybe at the end of this lesson we'll have a kind of an idea of how or what are the qualities that these people share. Okay, so let's move on to the other slide. Okay, so here as you can see we have 4 characters from 4 successful people. Okay, so those people okay, and here next we do have 7 questions. Okay, I'm going to read it to you. Okay, so after we listen, you only have to pay attention to this specific information that the questions ask you. Okay, so number 1 is, why do you think was Zara successful? It's a clothing brand. And number 2, why was Abdulatif Jamil named Saudi Volunteer of the Year? And number 3, how has Abdulatif Jamil contributed to the Saudization program in Saudi Arabia? And what challenges did Li Ka-shing face early in his life? And the last one is, which event in your view must have given jobs a great sense of satisfaction and so forth? Okay, so basically these are the questions that we'll try to answer after we listen to this audio. Okay, so listen very carefully and then we'll be back with some questions.
Unit 2, Rags to Riches, pages 14 and 15. 1. Listen and discuss.
Amancio Ortega. Worth $31 billion. Industry: retail clothing. Country of citizenship: Spain. Amancio Ortega is the founder and chairman of a company that owns many stores, including the enormously popular international clothing store, Zara. Now Spain's richest man, Ortega is the son of a railroad worker and had no formal higher education. When Ortega was 13, he worked as a delivery boy for a shirt maker and later became the manager of a clothing store. He began making clothing in his living room and selling it to local stores. Ortega had an ability to predict what styles were going to be popular and to create these styles with inexpensive materials. In 1975, Ortega opened his first Zara store. Zara gained a reputation for selling designer fashions at reasonable prices. Today, Ortega's company has more than 4,000 stores in 71 countries.
Sheikh Abdul Latif Jameel, worth $5.1 billion. Industry, business. Country of citizenship, Saudi Arabia. A great philanthropist and prominent businessman, Mohammed Abdul Latif Jameel, president of ALJ, runs one of the world's largest car dealerships, with operations in the Middle East, UK, Central Asia, and China. A leading figure in corporate social responsibility, he has initiated a series of initiatives against poverty and has contributed greatly to the government's Saudiization program in the kingdom by promoting thousands of jobs every year through the ALJ community services programs. Abdul Latif Jameel is an MIT alumni, member of the Board of Trustees, and dedicated supporter of the Abdul Latif Jameel Poverty Action Lab, JPAL. He has been named Saudi Volunteer of the Year for 2012 in recognition of the services offered by the ALJCI in Saudi Arabia and the rest of the Arab world. Li Keqiang, worth $26.5 billion. Industry, business. Country of citizenship, China. Li was born into an impoverished family in China in 1928. When he was 15, his father died, forcing Li to leave high school so that he could work to support his family. He took a job in a plastics company where he would work 16 hours a day. At this company, Li used to assemble plastic flowers. By 1950, Li had started his own plastics manufacturing company. His company prospered, which led Li to expand his business into many different fields. However, his successes are not all monetary. Li Keqiang has a reputation for being honest and generous. In fact, he is one of Asia's most prominent philanthropists and has announced plans to donate 1/3 of his wealth to charity. Stephen Paul Jobs, 1955 to 2011. Worth $8.3 billion. Industry, computer design. Country of citizenship, U.S. Stephen Paul Jobs was born in 1955 and adopted into a working-class family. He grew up in what later became Silicon Valley. He dropped out of college because he could not afford to pay his tuition. In the late 70s, he co-founded Apple with Steve Wozniak and others, and proceeded to develop and market the first successful lines of personal computers. He eventually resigned from Apple over an argument with the board of directors in 1984 and founded Next. Apple's buyout of Next in 1997 brought Jobs back to Apple as its CEO. He was the largest individual shareholder of the Walt Disney Company and a member of the board. Jobs was admired by many for his entrepreneurial skills, his foresight, and his ability to create and support products that were both functional and aesthetically pleasing.
So, can you hear to the audio now? Because I'm going to play it again if you like. Oh, okay, very good. So, if you excuse me, we're going to play it again. Okay, yes, of course. And this time, as I said, we'll hear different stories about these 4 people. Okay, so listen very carefully, and then we'll have.
Unit 2, Rags to Riches, pages 14 and 15. 1. Listen and discuss.
Amancio Ortega, worth $31 billion. Industry, retail clothing. Country of citizenship, Spain. Amancio Ortega is the founder and chairman of a company that owns many stores, including the enormously popular international clothing store, Zara. Now Spain's richest man, Ortega is the son of a railroad worker and had no formal higher education. When Ortega was 13, he worked as a delivery boy for a shirt maker and later became the manager of a clothing store. He began making clothing in his living room and selling it to local stores. Ortega had an ability to predict what styles were going to be popular and to create these styles with inexpensive materials. In 1975, Ortega opened his first Zara store. Zara gained a reputation for selling designer fashions at reasonable prices. Today, Ortega's company has more than 4,000 stores in 71 countries.
Sheikh Abdul Latif Jamil, worth $5.1 billion. Industry, business. Country of citizenship, Saudi Arabia. A great philanthropist and prominent businessman, Mohammed Abdul Latif Jamil, president of ALJ, runs one of the world's largest car dealerships, with operations in the Middle East, UK, Central Asia, and China. A leading figure in corporate social responsibility, he has initiated a series of initiatives against poverty and has contributed greatly to the government's Saudiization program in the kingdom by promoting thousands of jobs every year through the ALJ community services programs. Abdul Latif Jamil is an MIT alumni, member of the Board of Trustees, and dedicated supporter of the Abdul Latif Jamil Poverty Action Lab, JPAL. He has been named Saudi Volunteer of the Year for 2012 in recognition of the services offered by the ALJCI in Saudi Arabia and the rest of the Arab world. Li Keqiang, worth $26.5 billion. Industry, business. Country of citizenship, China. Li was born into an impoverished family in China in 1928. When he was 15, his father died, forcing Li to leave high school so that he could work to support his family. He took a job in a plastics company where he would work 16 hours a day. At this company, Li used to assemble plastic flowers. By 1950, Li had started his own plastics manufacturing company. His company prospered, which led Li to expand his business into many different fields. However, his successes are not all monetary. Li Keqiang has a reputation for being honest and generous. In fact, he is one of Asia's most prominent philanthropists and has announced plans to donate 1/3 of his wealth to charity. Stephen Paul Jobs, 1955 to 2011. Worth $8.3 billion. Industry, computer design. Country of citizenship, U.S. Stephen Paul Jobs was born in 1955 and adopted into a working-class family. He grew up in what later became Silicon Valley. He dropped out of college because he could not afford to pay his tuition. In the late 70s, he co-founded Apple with Steve Wozniak and others, and proceeded to develop and market the first successful lines of personal computers. He eventually resigned from Apple over an argument with the board of directors in 1984 and founded Next. Apple's buyout of Next in 1997 brought Jobs back to Apple as its CEO. He was the largest individual shareholder of the Walt Disney Company and a member of the board. Jobs was admired by many for his entrepreneurial skills, his foresight, and his ability to create and support products that were both functional and aesthetically pleasing.
Okay, so now we listen to an overview or a brief about these four businessmen, okay? And if you allow me, let me just sum it up, okay? Give you a very short summary about each of these people, okay? So we'll start with Ortega. As you listen, Ortega is very successful in the retail clothing business. Okay, he has no higher education. What made him actually successful is that he has the ability to know which clothes are fitting in. He has a talent, yes, and he has also, and one of his talents are to figure out the ability to figure out the proper style, okay, clothing style. So he opened a shop named a clothing shop named Zara, and what made actually Zara successful is because it offers reasonable prices, okay, unlike other stores. And today he has more than 4,000 stores in more than 71 countries. Yes, okay. And this is for Ortega. Now we'll go to Mohammed Abdul Latif Jamil. He worth 5.30 billion, and his line of work is business. He's a very famous philanthropist. He's well known for his initiatives against poverty. He has done a lot of services and offers a lot of services for the society. The third one is Lee Ka-shing. Okay, he worth more than $20 billion. His line of work is business. Okay, he was born in a very impoverished, very poor family. He left high school because his father died and he needed to support his family. He worked in a plastic industry, and he has a good reputation of making plastic flowers, okay, and also good reputation of being a very generous man, because he also promised that he will donate 1/3 of his fortune to charity. And the last one, of course, the very well-known Steve Jobs. Okay, he worth more than $8 billion. He dropped college and he was adopted. Okay, he doesn't know his real parents, and so he co-founded Apple. Okay, and he was very known for his entrepreneur skills. Okay, so these are short summary of these people. Okay, let's all together, me and you, Aya and Mushrif, try to answer that question. Okay, so number one, why do you think was Zara successful? Why do you think was Zara successful? Of course, there are a proper reason for its success. So, what do you think? What made Zara successful? Okay, and number two, yes, because it was up to passion and has a good prices. Excellent. Yes, of course, that's the reason. Without a doubt, this is the reason. And very good. Let's move on to number two. Why was Abdul Latif Jamil named Saudi Volunteer of the Year? He offered many services and he was very much prepared. So, do you think this is the reason he was named Saudi Volunteer of the Year? What do you mean by philanthropist? It means that he is a person who likes to do good deeds to other people. This is what they mean by philanthropist. So, what do you think, Aya? Do you think this is why they named him Saudi Volunteer of the Year? I guess yes, very good. Okay, your guess is right. And number three, how do you think has Abdul Latif Jamil contributed to the Saudization program in Saudi Arabia? I believe, maybe this is not mentioned in the audio, but I believe because he started an initiative for hiring an employee. It's called Babris Jamil. So I think this is why or how he contributed to the Saudization program. Okay, and yeah, very good. And number four, what do you think the challenges that Lee Ka-shing faced early in his life? There are two major challenges actually he faced. He lost his father and dropped high school. Excellent, excellent, excellent work, Aya. And last one, in your opinion, which event that must have given Jobs a great sense of satisfaction and self-worth? So what kind of event, or what kind, let me say, when did you say that, or did you think that now Steve Jobs is, he has it all? Now He's self-worth it, he's satisfied, he is the man of the hour, as they say. Okay? From a very specific event or a very specific moment, he became another man, or that moment changed his life. Yes, okay, yes, very good. And also, a lot of people may also add to it that when he starts Apple, or they actually, when he started the smartphone revolution, if I may say. Okay? Yes, very good. Thank you, Aya. Very good job. Okay, so now let's all together try to check the answers again. So number one, Zara gained a reputation for selling designer fashions at reasonable prices, as you said, very good. And for the second question, in recognition of the services he offered an AOJCI in Saudi Arabia, this is for Abdulatif Jamil, and also by promoting thousands of jobs every year through AOJ Community Services Program. Okay, and the answer for number four, his father died, as you said, and forcing him to leave high school, as you said also. And number five, the last one, although he was resigned from Apple over an argument with the board of directors in 1984, founded next, job was brought back to Apple as its CEO. Okay, so yes, great job, Aya. Okay, I admire your enthusiasm and answers. Okay. So let's now try to answer this interesting question. It's about vocabulary, new vocabulary. Okay. So here you have exiled, philanthropist, reputation, impoverished, and prominent. Okay. And if you allow me, I'm going to do the first one for you, and then you'll have it for the other sentences. Okay. So number one says, not only was Jake an excellent student in high school, but he in sports as well. Okay, so I think here in the first one, okay, we can't choose prominent because it totally have another meaning. We can't say impoverished because impoverished it means poor or doesn't have anything. Okay. Not very good. Yes, it is exiled. Okay, it is exiled. Okay, so I'm going to write it here, exiled. Okay, so here we have exiled. So this is number one. Okay, so you can, by the way, you can drag a text box to here and type the answer you think is right. So he has, for being one of the greatest doctors in the field of neurosurgery. Okay, so what do you think? What is the answer of number two? Again, you can drag a text box here and write the answer that you think the correct answer. Okay. So number two, what do you think? He has. Okay. Very good. Excellent. Excellent job. Yes, he has a reputation. Okay. What people talk, what people think of you, and what people talk behind your back. This is a reputation. Excellent job. Let's directly go to number three. My professor is an economist who is often quoted in magazines. Okay. So economist. Economist means person who in the field of economy. Okay, so he quoted in magazines. So magazines are talking about him, but not anyone, not any economist they talk about in magazine. He must be a yes. Yes, you got it. He must be a prominent economist, okay? A prominent economist. Economist that's known, economist that's known among his field. Very good. Excellent job, Aya. Let's go for number four. The charity I donate to help, actually not help, to help to build schools in areas of Okay, so what kind of areas are they? Very good job in profit. Excellent job. And the last one, of course, it will be businessman and philanthropist. Excellent job. Suleiman Raj, he gives millions of dollars to charities every year. I guess you deserve this very big star, okay, for your excellent job. Thank you, Aya. Very good job. Okay. Now, if you allow me, let's move on to the next slide. Okay. Very good. These the answers as you said. Excellent job. Okay. Now, I guess this is the last exercise we have. Okay. So now we do have to match the words to their definition. Okay. And if you allow me, we're going to choose maybe the first 4 words for the sake of time. Welcome, Ahmed, to the class. For the sake of time. Okay. So you may choose. You can drag if you like. Drag the pen like this one. Number 1, you said I. Yes. Okay. Now take the pen and tell us about number 2, 3, and 4. Yes, you may choose the answer for yourself. What do you think? Number 2, exiled. Okay. Is it A, very poor, or B, well known, or C, not too expensive, or D, did very well, or E, the opinion others have about someone? So what do you think, Aya? What do you think? Exiled. Exile. You can choose the pen. You can choose the pen. Exile did very well. Yes, of course. Okay, let me do number 3. Founded. To found something, it means that, as we said, Steve Jobs founded Apple. It means that he started Apple, okay, from nowhere. So number 4, impoverished. Established. Yes, established something. So number 4, impoverished means very poor. Okay, this is what they mean by impoverished. And number 5, philanthropist. What do you think? Philanthropist, a person that 4A, excellent job. What do you think? Philanthropist. 5, you said H, that gives a lot of money, right? Very good. And what do you mean, what do you think, number 6? Prominent. He is a prominent man. Very good. Yes, it is B. Okay, famous. Excellent job, Aya. And reasonable, number 7. Reasonable. 7C, not too expensive. Excellent. Reasonable prices. And 8, reputation. Reputation is reputation, I guess you're going to say E. Okay, the opinion that others have about someone. Excellent. And number 9, wealth. It is, this is the only one left, I guess. Wealth, it means, yes, large amount of money. Okay, excellent job, Aya. Excellent job. Okay, so here are the answers as you answered. Very good job. Okay. So now these we do have a couple of questions. Okay, I'm going to choose the first 2 to ask you. Okay, there is no right or wrong answer. It's only depends on you. So what do you think? What are the names of some famous philanthropists in your country? You can tell me what are the names of some famous philanthropists in your country. Do you remember any of them? Any famous philanthropists in your country? Welcome, Ahmed, to the class. Yes, Aya. So, do you have or do you remember anyone in your country that gives a lot of people and likes to help charity, okay, and donate a lot of money? Do you know any of these people in your country, maybe, or in your town? Okay, so not to exhaust you, okay, how about if we move to number 2, okay? Number 2 says, which football player, maybe since this is not what you're interested in, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Which football player do you think in your country has an excellent reputation? People speak well about him. Or maybe this is something you will be interested in. What do you think the store in your city that has reasonable prices? Now, I know it's too many questions, but I'm trying to exceed time. Center point, excellent, very good job, okay. And allow me for the last question, Aya, okay. What do you think you excel at? What do you think you excel at? What do you think you excel at, Aya? Okay. Tell us about yourself. Playing tennis, very good job, very good job. I hope you master at playing tennis. Excellent job, Aya. So now, as I said, these questions, the answers of these questions vary according to each one of us, okay? And now we'll move on to the next slide. Yeah, of course. Now we'll move on to the next slide. Here the answer, as we said. Yes, so this will be the end of our lesson, okay? So let's try to summarize what we did take. There are some persons who went from not having money to being wealthy, of course, and we listened and we also discussed information about some famous people, and we introduced some new vocabulary, okay? So Aya, Ahmed, Mushrif, thank you very much for participating, especially you, Aya, okay? I hope, inshallah, to see you in another lesson. If you want to watch this lesson again, you can visit the Dروس gate, and there are the means of communication. You can choose any if you do have any questions. Thank you very much, and have a great night.